Alrighty, greetings everyone tuning in. Welcome. I am Key, and today we've got something powerful. I'm sitting down with Nicole, who's been through an incredible healing journey, and we're just gonna have an authentic conversation about what she went through, how she healed naturally, and how she stayed consistent with it. And we're really just here to share openly in a way that hopefully gives someone out there dealing with similar stuff some clarity, a sense of connection, and maybe even a little hope that things can change. So thank you, Nicole, for being here. I'm super grateful we get to do this. So let's start with
Thank you,
where
Key.
you were before all of this.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, thank you, Key.
yeah, no worries at all. So what were some of the labels that you were diagnosed with? We'll just start there.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I was diagnosed with celiac disease. That was like over 10, 11 years ago. Um, and also had really bad like cystic acne, like all along, like kind of like my jawline. And definitely was struggling with moods that were kind of going up and down, so like probably some a little bit of like low level anxiety that I wasn't really acknowledging. Yeah, so and I had eczema, dry skin, stuff like that. So a lot of things that I think, people deal with and just kind of, don't really recognize or just think it's normal, that kind of that humans go through. So,
Definitely agree with that. And so what were some of the major symptoms that you were dealing with from these um, labels that you've got diagnosed with?
yeah. So with celiac, for folks that don't know, I think a lot of people have learned about that, but that's an autoimmune disease where you can't digest wheat, the grain wheat. It's a certain protein within the wheat. And so with that, there was like a ton of, gut issues, gut pain, malabsorption issues. So as a result of that, I became deficient in a lot of different things, like B12, vitamin D. I just wasn't absorbing a lot. I became anemic. I had joint pain. Um, Interestingly enough, with that, kind of going off the side, but it wasn't until I went vegan that I found out that I had celiac because I really became serious about my health and started doing blood work. And so yeah, that those were my symptoms for celiac. And then of course acne, was visible, cysts and stuff on my skin. And yeah, the mental health, I wasn't feeling optimal, you just kind of, go through your ups and downs and just try to deal with it. So a lot of like little like depression going on too for a long time.
Gotcha. Yeah. And how long were you dealing with all of this?
Oh, like since probably, I mean, um, I remember my parents saying that I was deficient in iron as a young child. So I think that I had malabsorption issues since I was little and just eating a ton. I have like Italian heritage and Filipino heritage. So like a lot of fried foods, a lot of, wheat-based foods. So I think since a young age, I was dealing with the symptoms from celiac and then just the depression. Definitely, high schoolers, teenagers, they go through a lot. And so I struggled a lot. But I look back at pictures and like I had really bloated, face and like the acne and stuff. So I would say since I was little, and it wasn't until I changed, my diet and my lifestyle in 2011 that, I had a rapid shift.
Right, gotcha. And you speak a little bit about it, the Italian and stuff. That was going to be my next question is like, what kind of diet and lifestyle were you living when you were dealing with these symptoms?
Yeah, I mean it was definitely like what people call the standard American diet or the standard Western diet. You know, pasta. I mean, chicken, definitely lots of meat, and cheese, lots of dairy, like lots of dairy. Growing up in California, a lot of like Mexican food, but like with like the wheat tortillas and yeah, just your standard and processed food like macaroni and cheese and Kool-Aid and like food dyes. I mean, I didn't it's funny because I'm such a fruit based. I hardly ate any fruit. I hardly ate any like greens. And if I did eat, greens, they were like cooked down a lot. I don't even think I ate kale until my 20s, like
Yeah,
so yeah, not healthy at all. Not healthy.
gotcha. Right, right. Okay. And then were there any like diets or protocols that you've tried before getting into raw foods?
Yeah, I remember so I was in the Air Force and I remember trying this diet like I was like in my early 20s, the Atkins diet.
I've
And
heard
I
about
remember
that.
just eating, yeah, like it's the opposite of the way I eat now. So I eat high carb, low fat. And so that was like low carb, high fat, high protein.
Uh,
And I just
uh,
remember this moment. Yeah, I remember this moment like we were doing some training for the military and we were not at our normal duty station. And I was like, you know what? I'm just after eating like eggs and beef all the time. I was just like, I'm gonna eat a bagel. Like, that's it. I can't do this. Like, I'm gonna eat a bagel. And Key, I tell you, the energy that I got from that, you know, high carb bagel, it was like I drank a bunch of coffee and I was like, oh my God, I feel so like alive. And I'm like, forget this high protein, high fat. Like, obviously, I need carbohydrates. I feel so sustained. And not that bagel was good, because obviously I ended up finding out they had celiac and whatever, but it was the carbs that I was missing. So I tried, keto at one time, which is very similar to, the Atkins diet. I tried like watching my macros and, eating meat and fish and fruits and vegetables um but yeah, nothing ever really stuck very well. So I've tried a lot of different diets. So yeah.
wow, wow, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of energy, a lot of your energy, a lot of time. So I definitely feel
It
that.
was, yeah, a lot of energy.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of confusion. So I get that for sure. So moving
Yeah.
along to the discovery of raw foods, how did you first find out about raw foods?
Yeah, I mean, it was like doing the diet thing. I had gotten up, so I'm almost 6 foot. I'm like 5'11". So, and I say that because I got up to like over 200 pounds, which, they say, oh, if you're tall, you carry your weight well, but, there's no reason for me to be that heavy. And so I got to that point and I was just looking online and searching. And it's so bizarre. I can't even tell you how this happened, but I was researching diets, but I came upon this video of this poor pig being slaughtered. And I grew up in the suburbs, had never seen it like that. And I just like, my heart was so open at that moment. And I was just like so traumatized by that. And I was like, oh my God, like, what have I been doing? I can't eat animals, and so inadvertently, it wasn't like a PETA video, it wasn't anything like that. It was like I came upon it on accident, just looking up different things on YouTube. And so
Mm,
right then and there, I went vegetarian, and like 5 or 6 days later, after like pouring myself into research, I was like, I'm gonna ditch the eggs and the cheese. Like I need to go full on vegan. And so that was in 2011. Um, so that's how I found out. And then I started researching and quickly found, back in the day, it was like Freely, or I don't know if you've heard of those guys, but like in the very
yeah,
beginning. of my
Freely and who else?
discovery. I mean, I know it's been around. Yeah. Yeah.
Freely
So
and who else
they
did you
had
say?
like, the Durian Ryder, that was her partner at the time.
Right,
Yeah, so
right.
he was like
Okay,
a hardcore
cool.
cyclist, and yeah, he's still around actually. But yeah, this is like 2011. They had a forum called 30 Bananas a Day.
Right.
And so I just kind of dove in um, into that, but I wasn't ready, like emotionally and spiritually. I felt like I just wasn't ready. Like it was really challenging to stay raw at that time for me. So,
Right.
but
So
that's
you
kind of
tried to
that's how I started into this.
gotcha. Okay, so you kind of took the approach of
Yeah.
like you saw the raw foods and you kind of took the approach of like I need to go like raw 100% overnight, or did you kind of like start taking some cooked foods out, eating more raw, or did you just go like raw overnight, or how did that go?
Yeah, I really wanted to be raw overnight, and I'm one of those people, like I have that addictive nature, like it's all or nothing. Like I can't be like, oh, I'm just gonna dabble in this. Like I'm just really passionate and I wanted just to go for it. So, um, so I went raw overnight, but I only, like I would have moments where I just like, oh, I just, I think I just got too elevated and was like feeling so good. And because there's like some emotional issues that weren't dealt with, like I just like, oh, I need to like ground myself. And then I'd eat cooked food. And there was like a shame kind of cycle going on. But I mean, fast forward to now, like there's no shame. Like if I feel like I need to eat some frozen peas that may have been blanched, like, or whatever. Like, I'm not gonna, put myself down for that. But, like, truth be told, fruit is king, fruit is queen. Like, it makes me feel the best for sure.
I love that. I love that. So your
Yeah.
first like your first few weeks eating raw, when you made that shift, did you feel like some shifts right away, or was it like a big detox roller coaster where you're feeling all these intense detox symptoms? How did that go?
Yeah. I felt amazing. And like people noticed too. They could see it in my face and they couldn't even pinpoint it themselves. I mean, we're talking like meat eaters be like, "Oh, like your skin looks amazing." And it did. My skin was like, I think I told you in our message, that I took something called Accutane, which is like a really intense acne medication that they have to like monitor your liver levels and make sure that it's not damaging your system. And so I took that before I went vegan. Wasn't until and my skin cleared about 80%, but it wasn't until I switched that it completely cleared. And so we're talking like less than a week, those bumps just flattened and like the redness went away. And as you know, eating a raw diet is like a mucusless diet. And so
Right.
a lot of that was just I was literally draining, like, blowing my nose and like so I flu-like symptoms after I'd say about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks of being raw, I felt it. I had just had become obsessed and read so much that I knew that it was detox and just to stay the course. So I did, and yeah, I felt amazing. I would like pop up in the morning when I would wake up, and the only way to describe it to people is like just my eyes were completely open and like it's a different energy than like when you drink coffee, clearly, but it's like you're just once you're awake, you're awake. There's no grogginess. There's no like, oh, let me just slowly get up out of bed and just, go make some coffee or go get some mate or something. No, it's like you're awake. So
Right.
that's how I felt.
Wow, I love that. That's so powerful of you too to just like keep pushing through even though you're getting flu-like detox symptoms, but you know in your heart you're feeling the benefits, you're feeling things coming out, you're seeing and experiencing those results. So that's super powerful to just like stay consistent with that. Because that's where I think a lot of people kind of just mess up. They kind of mistake those detox symptoms for like this diet's making me sick. I need to go back to eating meat or cooked food and stuff like
Sure.
that, for sure. So how
Right.
did you how did you stay motivated when maybe your friends or your family didn't understand this lifestyle?
So what motivated me the most is just knowing how different I felt. And it was undeniable how amazing I felt. I mean, I felt better than I had ever had before. And there was, like getting the detox, symptoms, having the detox symptoms, they weren't like I said, I just researched and I knew I could push through it and I would feel better again. But yeah, I mean, even at one point, I remember sending a picture of myself to my mom and she was like in all caps, like, no more, like, you are losing too much weight. And I was just like, her, like, I feel so good. And I wasn't like some stick figure, like, I still had curves and I was like, I feel great. Like, it didn't matter. I was so hard headed about it, Key. I was just like, you can't tell me that this is bad for me. Like, growing up, everyone's like, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat your fruit. And so now you guys are going to tell me that eating my fruits and vegetables is bad, like you
Right.
guys are brainwashed. Like I was
A thousand.
totally convinced that everyone had been sadly brainwashed. And so there's a saying, and I know I'm going to screw it up, but it basically the premise is like it's harder to convince someone that they've been fooled than yeah, I'm going to mess it up. But it's like once someone's been brainwashed and you try to like show them the truth, then they're just going to like totally stand behind that. And it's harder to convince them of the truth once they've been told a lie. And that's sad to me, like it's sad, but we do our best and we try to get the message out there. So like you're doing.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's real easy to just kind of stay stuck in the comfort zone and just like the routines and habits we've been conditioned for, because these all these habits that we're doing every single day, multiple times a day, all these routines and just like all of our upbringing, like this is literally has caused our conditioning. So I definitely hear you on that. It's hard to change that, and kind of flip that whole perspective in people's eyes. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah. So you've been raw since 2011. Wow, that's like what? Almost 15 years, 14 years?
Yeah, I've definitely fallen off the wagon. It has not been a straight line. It has not been a straight line. And so I come from like an addiction background too. Like there was moments of drinking, there was moments of eating animal products too, which was like heartbreaking. So I say I've been part of this lifestyle. It's like I've always been like, I've fallen off the wagon, so to speak, and then got back up. And like, but it's like in my house, I have like all these uncooking books and different, resources. And like, I don't allow meat in my house. And so I haven't been perfect for sure, but that's why I started working with these health coaches. They're a married couple, and I just finished an 8-week program with them because I'm just like, I have to stick to this, especially now that like I'm in my 40s and like experiencing like perimenopause symptoms. And, the vegan junk food just was not working for me at all. So, but I've been a part of the lifestyle for a long time, but definitely haven't been perfect. So that's why I kind of want to just let people know, like, hey, like, you know, you can still come back to this lifestyle. It will always be here for you. Of course, it's wonderful to maintain it the whole time, but for the many people that have fallen off and can't say that they've been 100% perfect, like, be gentle with yourself and know that it's I know everyone says it's a journey, but it's a journey and it's your journey, it's your path. And, you can come back to it at any time and you can feel amazing at any time. So,
Yeah, 1,000%. I love that perspective. And yeah, like you said, you even though you fell off, you're falling forward, and you've been always connected to what you know is right. So that's the most powerful part is, you weren't attached to it, but you were connected to it that whole time. And I think it is really important for us to
Yeah.
kind of, if we want something, to just experience it, and through that experiencing, that it's a learning process. It takes us back, it's like, oh wow, this makes me feel like this, and it's not all about this and that. So it's
Yeah.
all just a learning process and experiencing. So I think it is really important that, you know we just follow our heart and just like be in the present moment. And if we feel like we want to experiment with something else, and just being present with that, and just like really feeling that whole experience, so what is most aligned for you. So I really like that perspective. I don't know anyone that's gone 100% raw and just stayed raw the whole time. We live in a society where you walk outside or you drive out of your neighborhood, and there's immediately five different fast food restaurants, and it's tough out here in society,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. So that I like that perspective
It
a
is.
lot.
It is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Key. Yeah, I see, yeah, we see it every day. And I like that where you said, would you say fall forward instead of falling off?
Yeah, yes, we're not, when we do fall, we're just falling forward on this journey. This is a whole, like you said, is very overword used,
Yeah,
but this is just an everlasting journey, We're never at the highest of all highs. There's so much to learn in this
yeah,
life, so much to experience, for sure. So I wanted to ask you, what are maybe some
yeah,
foods that
yeah.
are staples on this diet for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, like, I don't know if you've heard of that term, like a volume eater. There's like some folks, can eat like smaller amounts of food or they get full fast, but like there's also this demographic of people that like to eat lots of food. And like, of course, like overeating and is a big thing. And so I think when you're starting raw, and if you're, or even just vegan, if you're a volume eater, um, personally, like rice or potatoes can be good for cooked, of course. I mean, that can be really satiating if you need that feeling of fullness in the beginning. But for raw vegan, it's got to be the bananas and the dates, because I mean, they have less water content, but they can have that feeling of like they'll be in your stomach for longer. And if it helps you transition to the more watery fruits, by all means. So for me at this stage, I start my day with like 1,000 calorie smoothie because I've found that if I start out with a dense smoothie like that, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, maybe I'll eat some rice, for lunch, or maybe like my mind will start kind of creeping away from this path. And so I figured out quickly, and with the help of my coaches, like, have a really good breakfast to start. So it's like bananas and dates, but I soak the medjool dates or the Diglet Noor dates in water. So they are like really watery. So I get the sugar and the carbs, but they're not really dry. So they're not pulling water from my body, hydrate them. Um, so I fill the Vitamix up to the brim, like it's filled. So it's like half of it's, spinach and kale and tender greens and bananas and dates. And then I learned from Don Bennett, he's an OG raw vegan. Um, so Daily Green Boost is a supplement that he recommends that kind of helps fill in any gaps nutritionally because a lot of our fruits aren't grown in optimal soils. So Daily Green Boost, and then I put a little bit of flax powder in there, and then a little bit of pumpkin seed powder in there. So that kind of it perfectly aligns that omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, which is something I recently learned that I was doing incorrectly. So like if you have a lot of omega-6s versus 3s, you can start getting more like low-level inflammation in your body. So, and then, randomly I'll put like some dandelion greens, like wild dandelion greens in there. I'll put, strawberries or whatever like fruits in season. I'll throw that in there. But that smoothie um, will tide me over until dinner. Um, so, but right now, I mean, watermelons going off, nectarines, all the stone fruit. So, I mean, I probably had almost like 1,000 grams. Like I'm weighing all my food and putting it in chronometer to make sure I'm hitting all my levels. Just as a guide. I mean, it's not perfect chronometer, but so so I'm weighing everything in grams. So I have like 1,000 grams of watermelon, and and I go to the Asian market and I get Thai coconuts by the case right now, and durian. I definitely do enjoy some durian now and then, and yeah, that's what I'm eating right now, which is such an abundance. So blessed, so grateful.
Yeah, most definitely. That's amazing. I pretty much
Yeah.
have the same diet as you. I love big banana smoothies and lots of juicy
Yeah.
fruit, dates, stuff like that. That's amazing. And I do agree too. The bananas and dates, they're just very grounding, because that's what we're coming from is just very these cooked foods are very grounding. They do ground you, although they have some side effects. And so
Yeah.
to be able to get that same groundingness feeling and that density in our diet, still on a raw food diet is just amazing. There's so much abundance on this diet. I love it. Now,
Yeah.
how do you feel about like salads and stuff? Do you eat salads or kind of just keep it fruity or what?
Yeah, I definitely keep it fruity most of the time. But I do love salads, and sometimes I do have like I'll make dehydrated foods. But I only do that maybe a couple times a week. Um, Being in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, I really don't I don't want to say I don't like it, but it's like when people say, "Oh, I don't, I'm up in, Nebraska and I don't have a lot of fruit." It's like, "Come on, we're in the United States. You can have access to all sorts of things." But that being said, we grow tons of I mean, like the farmers here in Idaho, they grow amazing greens, and I love greens. I love the way they make me feel. And I mean, mainly like I'll just put like kale and like like I love the bib lettuces, and even iceberg has a place, like it's the crunchiness because you miss kind of like that crunch factor sometimes. But I love salads, but in my salads I'll chop up dates, I'll chop up like soaked raisins and like put that in my like there's still a lot of fruit in my salads, or I'll make like a dressing with like mango and red bell pepper and like a little bit of green onion. Oh, that's so good.
So good.
Yeah,
I've
so
actually
I
had
love
that
I love
same.
salads and greens.
Awesome. I love that.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it definitely is. Super good, super good. So now in terms of like financial wise, like did you find it was cheaper or more expensive than your old diet, eating like the standard American diet?
That's a great question. I mean, when I was eating a standard American diet, I mean, I was going out to restaurants quite a bit, and you know, buying all the different gadgets. I mean, once like I've had that Vitamix since 2011. That thing is still, I did have to replace the carafe, but the motor, the base itself is still going strong. But so I mean, at first there was a bit of an investment, the dehydrator. You don't have to do hydrators, of course. But the Vitamix and, ceramic knives and stuff like that. But regardless of that, so I would say it's pretty comparable. Once you get into the groove of your ripening stages, like buying your bananas and figuring that all out, Because sometimes, I had a hard time getting that whole thing figured out. But so far as like a monthly bill, I would say it's pretty comparable, if not a little bit cheaper. I mean, because when I do something, I want to do like the best. So in my mind, when I was eating like an omnivore diet, I was like, spending a good amount on like restaurants. I hardly ever go out now. Like if I go out, it's like, to a grocery store that has a salad bar and I just get a bunch of greens and, just the bell peppers and stuff like that. And so now that I don't go out that much to eat, I would say it's pretty comparable.
Yeah, I like that perspective a lot. I
It
mean,
can be expensive if you're, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
no, sorry. I think we have a little like 2 second delay going on, but it's all good. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we don't
Oh,
realize
okay.
too, like of how much we're, eating out on a standard American diet, eating out that the stuff adds up a lot. Like just seeing the plates nowadays of just like some restaurant food is like 20, 30 bucks for like a plate of food, and like that's a whole case of bananas that'll last me like 2 weeks, so
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, awesome. So
Yeah.
what would you say to someone who's maybe afraid of like losing too much weight or looking too thin when going raw?
So I would say that give your body time and if it makes you feel better, I mean, it's probably the smarter thing to do. I would say if someone wants to start and they're afraid of getting too thin, start out with logging your food, making sure you're getting enough calories. Because if you eat the same volume of food, of fruit, I mean, you could eat like a big steak and, but then you can just eat the equivalent volume of bananas, but you're not getting enough calories. And you need to kind of push yourself a little bit out of the comfort zone, out of your comfort zone, and maybe like, I don't want to say overeat, but just, over time, just trust that your body is going to level out where it needs to be. And plus, we've been conditioned, all we see around us are overweight bodies, and I'm in a state right now where I'm losing weight and I need to. And so we're so used to seeing people that are overweight or a little bit thick, and it's like that shouldn't be the norm. Those people are filled with mucus and pus and clogged arteries, and that's just the facts. And so if you think you're getting too thin, then up your calories and track everything for a little while until you get used to it. And just learn how to feel that feeling of being light in your body. And as long as you're strong and I mean, movement is so huge too. Like we should be nimble and quick and strong, and we don't need to be carrying all this extra weight. And we've been conditioned too, slowly over time, just to think that's the norm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just to touch on that, it made me think too. That was what we were conditioned to think that is the norm, like kind of overweight, chubby, and stuff like that, as well as just being like, maybe this isn't the same for like females, mostly like a male thing, but just being like super big and strong and stuff. And like, oh, if you're vegan, you can't get
Yeah,
this. But it's like, I always like to say, like, how strong you really need to be in this life. If like you can pull yourself up, you can run around, like, so yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there too. But yeah, definitely I like your perspective. You
absolutely.
can't eat the same amount of volume because these are more hydrating, more lighter and stuff. And I like that because I like to just eat all day, I don't everyone has their own way of eating. You can eat the three big meals a day, but this gives you the freedom to just like eat as much as you want every day and just kind of snack on things all day. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, was there like a turning point when eating raw just stopped feeling like effort and just became your whole lifestyle after you started?
Yeah, I love that question, Key, because I've been feeling like that again now. And this was kind of like how it went for me. Like I would be like eating, vegan impossible burgers and feeling really bad um and just thinking, gosh, I gotta get back on track. I gotta get back to fruit. I know I feel so good. And then like I'd start like diving into YouTube videos and like literally changing my feed on Instagram, like subscribing, to notifications from all these different raw people so I can that's all that I see. And I would just go really heavy into that. And then I'd slowly start, making my smoothies again. And then but in those moments it felt really hard. But a lot of it was just all up here. Like I was making it hard and that's okay, that's kind of that was my process. And then um after getting like an accountability coach and like I had suggested to someone on Reddit, like, hey, if they were asking about coaching, and I said, even if you can't afford it, just like find someone either through Reddit or on Facebook or whatever and be like, hey, I need like an accountability. Like just having that can be all the difference, just someone you can check in with. And so these past 8 weeks and really like being diligent every day with Chronometer, I'm at the point now where it's just so automatic and my attention is diverting to like running my business and like, but food is kind of secondary now, like in my thought process. It's part of my normal every day, which is so empowering to feel that way because it's just not, your whole focus isn't about food. It's like, wow, this food is powering me to do bigger things, and that's, I think, where, I know personally for me, that's where I want to be, but food is huge. It's such a big part of our lives, you know, but I want to be able to use it as a tool to nourish my body so I can do so much more, you know, in this
Yeah,
life. So it's definitely feeling like that. It does. It does. I'm so grateful to be in this space because it can be kind of overwhelming in the beginning. But if you can get through it, and you can, you just got to do a little bit every day, and then it'll all fall into place. So
absolutely. I
yeah.
love that perspective, definitely. And our taste buds literally adapt to what we start, feeding it in our gut microbiome, our gut bacteria, which is made up of what we're eating, literally adapts and becomes what we eat. And we start craving this food the more we stay consistent with it, even just a little bit at a day. So I love that perspective. And the accountability is huge, this is like a whole life shift. Food is, like you said, it's the foundation of our whole life, how we show up, our energy levels and our abilities and opportunities in this life. So having an accountability partner to just keep you aligned and on that path and inspired is super huge. I love that tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, looking back now, how do you feel? This might be a big question, but how do you feel like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and maybe even physically compared to before you healed?
Oh, wow. Um, on every level, I feel so much more at peace because remember how I talked about like those it was like a roller coaster. And even as a woman in perimenopause, where a lot of, women talk about this stage of our life can be pretty chaotic with the hormones, and like your estrogen dropping and all these changes. But I feel more at peace than I ever have because this way of eating has balanced everything in my body. And so when stressful things happen, I just can just take a breath and just be like, okay, what do I need to do? What's up for me right now? What do I need to do in this moment, instead of just being like reactive or like feel my cortisol levels just spike and just um So, and spiritually, yeah, meditation helps tremendously along with this diet. Um, I just feel, I mean, peace is the word that comes to mind when you ask that, you know,
Yeah,
on every level,
I
no
love that.
spikes. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's so cool that you said that. You're not as like reactive and stuff because you don't have all this like inflammation and this internal inflammation, all this like density and all this like these standard American foods are very stimulating, right? So
Yeah,
you can kind of, like you said, when something's going wrong, you can kind of just like take a step back and say like, all right, what do I need to do, right? But on the lot of cooked food, standard American diet, it's kind of like a barrier, you have this like this numbing you from your goals and your emotions and like what you want to do and need to do and stuff like that. So that's a powerful
very
answer.
numbing.
Yeah, I love that. Now, if
Yeah, thank you.
someone is watching this and maybe dealing with the same symptoms that you had, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that I would first say you're stronger than you think you are, and that yes, you can work alongside your doctor, but like ultimately, you have to be your own advocate. And there are things that you can do to heal your body and to feel better. And not only temporarily, and I mean, for the long term. And you know, like when you think like something big's going to happen in your life, you're like, oh, I can't wait till this big thing happens, and then it happens, but it's better than you ever thought. That's very much how this lifestyle is. Like you can conceptualize it and intellectualize it, but until you experience it, you're going to be like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, and oh my gosh, like, and not in a shameful way, like, but just like I wish I would have been more open minded to this. And so keep in mind things are out there. There are ways to heal your body. Um, and you can feel better than you ever believed. And it's so simple too. It can be as hard as you make it, really. But I mean, and it can be as simple as clearing out your cupboards, clearing out your fridge, and replacing it with water rich fruits and vegetables and a little bit of nuts and seeds.
There you have it. There you have it. Wow, that's powerful. I love that. And yeah, it's just coming back home to nature, like you said, just replacing everything that's in your cupboards that's not from nature, these bagged and boxed foods and stuff like that. And just yeah, just realigning with where we're from. A lot of us forget we're very disconnected from where we're from, nature, we're in these buildings. So when we really look at it that way, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. It's just coming back home. What will we be eating in nature? So I love that. Now, if you could talk to your past self again and give yourself maybe 3 tips to staying consistent and just feeling great on raw foods, what would you tell yourself?
I would say surround yourself with the people that have been there and done that and that want to support you is really huge. And learn as much as you can about this lifestyle. I would say, yeah, replace everything in your fridge. Um, and gosh, okay, so 3 things, and just stay the course and just give it an honest shot. Give it more than 30 days, I'd say. But if you could just stay raw for 2 weeks, you'll feel a huge difference and know that, detox symptom is temporary, but it could happen to you. But that means that you're on the right path. You're on the right, road there for sure. So yeah, surround yourself with the right people, the right teachers, and people that have done it, and then just replace all of your food in your house and get rid of it. That's a power move right there. Get a good blender, get the right tools, and yeah, and just stay the course for sure, and give it longer than yeah, give it two to 2 weeks to a month, but then really just the magic happens after a few months, up to 6 months, until that clicks in, like what we were talking about, until it just becomes second nature. And that's really, the sweet spot. That's when you
Right.
can use that energy to like more good. Yeah, for sure. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I love that. Very, very good answer. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that so openly. I know someone watching this is going to feel a little less alone and a lot more hopeful after hearing your story. And if this helped you in any way, feel free to drop a comment or share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're on your own healing journey right now, just know it is possible. Like Nicole said, just keep going. Thank you again, Nicole. I really appreciate you for sharing your story and sharing your perspective and experience and wisdom during these last 14 to 15 years.
Yes, thank you, Key. And you're doing the good work right there, like sharing and creating content. People need this so, so much. I mean, you're definitely one of the pages that I see, and we need to reprogram our brains. Like, there's so much, negativity and toxicity out there. So, creating content like this is doing like the good work, seriously. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you for your acknowledgement. That means a lot. Awesome. But thank you so much, Nicole, again. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Happy healing, family. Cheers.